This young man killed his sugar mommy, cut her into pieces and stuffed her in a fridge, all because she said she was tired of the relationship. Even the night he killed her, it was said he went to the bar and picked up another woman whom he spent the night with. However, the way he was caught is one of the reasons why it's important for people to be close to their neighbors. Having a good neighbor who knows you and knows your family can be at a very good advantage sometimes. So, the 56-year-old lady who went by the name of Busisiwe Mtentwa was said to be dating a 35-year-old Zimbabwean man named Brian Miripiri. Although Brian was from Zimbabwe, he lived with Busisiwe in her home in Cape Town, South Africa. And it was said that they've been dating for 3 years, and all these 3 years he lived with her. However, over time, by the end of 2023, it turned out that the relationship was getting sad. Prior to this, people have observed that they used to fight from time to time. Even our family members did mention that Busisiwe had expressed being tired of Brian and was planning to, file a restraining order against him. But I guess according to them, every time she complained about him, he found a way to warm his way into her heart. But they knew that Brian had been violent towards her in the past. So towards the end of 2023, it's not clear what the relationship situation must have been, but clearly there was still heat amongst them. The only problem is Brian still lived with her. So it kind of interpreted to a lot of people that probably they were still good. However, on the 28th of December 2023 was the last time anybody saw Busisiwe. The neighbors observed that they didn't see her for a while, and when they confronted Brian, Brian told them that Busisiwe had traveled, and she had traveled for the new year. And they somehow believed it. I mean, he was her boyfriend. The only problem is he would have gotten away with it if he wasn't so careless about his follow-up plan. I mean, after you kill someone and stuff their body in a refrigerator, the next thing you should do is not to sell their properties. And that was what Brian did. Brian began selling off some of the things in Busisiwe's home. The TV, the chairs, and the neighbors saw this happening. Just a day after you said she had traveled, you're selling off her properties. And this is when the neighbors realized that something was off. This is when they realized that something was wrong. It was said some of the neighbors confronted him again, and he repeated to them that she had traveled and that she was the one who asked him to sell these things because she needed money where she was. The neighbors did not buy it. They were suspicious at him selling the properties just around the time that they stopped seeing her. And so immediately they called her family and reached out to her people and informed them that they've stopped seeing Busisiwe and they are seeing her boyfriend selling off her properties, that they believe something is wrong. And quickly, the family rushed down there. They did not even waste time. And when they came to Busisiwe's home, he wasn't around and the home was locked. He was at a bar somewhere. They spoke to the neighbors who gave them all the information that they knew about. And it was said that the relatives began calling other relatives in South Africa, asking if Busisiwe was with them to know where she traveled to, because they started believing that she may have actually traveled. When they called a lot of her close relatives or relations, and all of them kept saying that Busisiwe was not with them, that was how they knew that something was up and something was off. Given their history, given the fact that they know that this boy had been violent towards this woman in the past. Rather than breaking into the home, the siblings of Busisiwe went to the police and requested they escort them back to the property. And on their way back to Busisiwe's home, they saw Brian heading back home with a bag of raw chicken. He was confronted, to which he kept repeating that Busisiwe had traveled and left him in charge. So they ordered him to open the house, which he did because now the police is involved. That's when the relatives started looking around the house. They almost were done searching because it wasn't clear what they were looking for. They probably did not know what they were looking for. Maybe they thought Busisiwe was tied up somewhere. Maybe they thought Busisiwe had been killed and stuffed somewhere. But everywhere they looked, it didn't give anything. And at the point, Brian told them that they should leave him so that he can cook his chicken in peace. That was when one of the relatives noticed a blood stain on the curtains and quickly alerted the police. They also observed that other parts of the house were scattered. At this point, Brian was giving excuses as to what may have caused the blood. There was nothing he did not come up with. All the lies in the book, he fabricated them and tried to convince them to leave him alone. And just as they were about to be done with the search, one of the relations noticed that there were a pile of objects on the deep freezer in the kitchen. And that raises suspicion as to why there was a car battery on top of it or a pumping machine engine on top of it. Why were there so much heavy things pressing the refrigerator? Out of that suspicion, he pulled everything out and opened the deep freezer whereupon he saw his sister's lifeless body. Although some sources said her body was injured, other sources claimed that she was chopped in pieces and stuffed in the fridge. It was at this moment that they knew that Bosisiwe had been killed by her 35-year-old sugar boy. And this was when they recalled and learned that Bosisiwe was planning to end her relationship with this Brian boy and was even trying to file a restraining order because Brian had become very violent and very aggressive towards her. And I guess given that he's Zimbabwean, he most likely relied on Bosisiwe. Bosisiwe was the one sponsoring everything, the house, the food. He probably did not even have a job. And realizing that this woman was going to cut him off and he would most likely be on the streets or have to go back to his hometown, he decided that he was going to fight back and kill her. Brian was arrested and immediately charged to court, where he would face trial for killing Bosisiwe. The only problem now is Brian is trying to play smart. All of a sudden, he's claiming that he can't speak English and he can't speak the local language. So they are trying to look for somebody who could speak his language for him to be able to help him pull through the entire court hearing. And I think he's trying to get away with it. He's also trying to get bail, but the Bosisiwe's family claim that if they give him bail, he will run back to Zimbabwe and it will be difficult for them to find him. We all know these scopes. We've seen it a lot of times. We've seen people all act like, oh, suddenly you can't speak English after dating this woman for 3 years and you can't speak their native language. Now you want to act dumb. But I'm sure everybody sees through him and I know he will most likely not get away with it.